Einen wunderschönen Sonntag hier auf der Austria Comic Con 2018 in der Messe Wels. Zum zweiten Mal mit dem Panel mit Lou Ferrigno, MANU, BENNETT und Sam Jones. Für alle, die sich vielleicht interessieren, das offizielle ACC 18 T-Shirt gibt es in der Halle beim Stand H14 bei Mighty Underground. Ansonsten würde ich sagen, ihr habt sicher heute auch eure Notizen mit, weil es geht ja darum, dass ihr eure Fragen an die Stars weiterleiten könnt. Und dafür würde ich Sie jetzt einmal auf die Bühne bitten. Ladies and gentlemen, we know him as the Incredible Hulk and the neighbor of Doug and Carrie Heffernan, Mr. Lou Ferrigno. We know him as Flesh. And I don't sing anymore because that's terrible. And from TED, here is Sam Jones. And special thanks to our partner, the German Comic Con, for making sure that MANU BENNETT could be here. We know him from Arrow and Spartacus. By the way, wenn ihr hinten noch sitzen wollt, es gibt noch genug Plätze. Bitte kommt her, nehmt eure Fragen mit, and let's go. The first thing I want to start with today, Lou. Lou, at the end of the panel yesterday, you made a selfie with the audience and you posted it on Facebook. And I gotta confess, I stole that. It's great. I stole it from you. I had to post it on my socials as well, so please don't sue me. And I read the comments, and one guy commented, well, I know Lou, I know Sam, I know Bennett, but who's the fourth dude? And I found that funny. So what I asked myself is, you do cons a lot.
Yes, I do.
What is the most incredible or funny thing that ever happened to you at a con?
Well, one time I was at a con somewhere, I think it was in the, near California, so a guy came up to me with a big costume, and he made all these weird sounds. He kept going, whoosh, whoosh, and I said, excuse me, what's your name? And he walked away. Then the afternoon he came back, he made all these weird sounds. And I said, who are you? He wouldn't speak to me. So he did it for the third time. So 2 days later, I found out it was Michael Jackson. I trained Michael Jackson for 20 years, but he pulled a prank on me because he can't go to a convention without people hassling him. So he was in this costume, but he had to come to my table, and I thought he was a weirdo, like a drunk or something, but it was Michael Jackson.
Awesome. Manu, Sam, do you want to share con stories as well?
Yeah, I'll make that quick. Yeah, I'll give you a quick one. I used to sign just about anything. You know, you would bring me up whatever type of memorabilia or a home keepsake. But this one girl, I only did it one time, never did it again. She asked me to sign her arm. So I signed, you know, my autograph on her arm. And 4 hours later, she came back to my table. She had it tattooed on her arm. So I don't sign skin anymore, all right? So don't ask me to sign skin. Manu.
There was one convention that I went to and a girl showed up as Navia, dressed as Navia. And I swear she believed she was Navia. And she just followed me around everywhere, and it was just kind of, it was kind of a weird thing, but more than anything else. But she was lovely, but I think she really thought she was Navia. And I was going, I'm not Crixus. I play the role, but she thought, that's it, if I'm dressed as Navia, she's Navia. So I was like, okay.
Nobody walked up to you yet in a white horse costume?
No, but you had to be here yesterday to even understand what that means.
But we will post the video of yesterday's panel and today's panel on our socials so everybody can watch it at home. But let's see who has a question prepared. Who wants to ask Manu, Lou, or Sam a question? Let's go.
Bring it on. Don't be shy. Come on. We came 7,000 miles to be with you guys.
Come on, kid. Ask me a question.
What is this, a funeral here or what?
This is a Q&A.
Okay.
There's no A's if there's no Q's. I can't do an A if there's not a Q.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, you ask someone a question and we'll pass the mic around for someone to answer it. Let's go. Sam, you have a question for the audience?
Okay, I'm going to ask Sam a question. Hey, Sam, in your entire career as an actor, what was the one experience that was the highlight of your whole career? I mean, like an incident that happened. What was the highlight for all the 40 years you've been in the business?
Well, just almost 40 years ago, Lou and I got on a plane to South Africa, okay? And I had my oldest son, I think he was 6 months old. Actually, it was 34 years ago, to be precise. And yeah, so we were up in the nose of the plane, right? First class. With, do you remember the actor Chad Everett? Chad Everett, I don't know if you remember him. But he decided that the flight was what? 14, 16 hours?
We took off 11:30 in the evening.
Right. Anyway, it's a long, yeah, to make it long, yeah, it was South Africa.
We went to Sun City.
Sun City. Anyway, long story short, 16, 17-hour flight. Chad Everett decided to drink a whole bottle of whatever it was, whiskey, and he brought his guitar and he played he would not let us sleep. He played the guitar and drank for 16 hours in South Africa. We were going to what they call the Sun City Open, the $1 million Open golf tournament. Lee Trevino, Ballesteros, you name it. They were all there. And Lou and I were invited to play golf, okay? So we show up with our basketball shoes on, and Trevino and a few of the guys saw us hitting the ball, and they said, wait a minute. We can't play if these two guys are gonna be out there. So I said, time out. I said, Lee, I'll make a deal with you. If Lou and I if our ball does not get on the green within 3, we will pick up our ball. So if you understand golf, I think we picked up our ball out of 18 holes, we picked it up 17 times. Yeah, that's a true story.
And then the funny thing is that while we were playing golf, one time Stan was hitting the golf ball, it kept missing. So I think you hit on the 4th time. So it was my turn to get up, and I remember I can't play golf, so I was swinging hard as I could. So finally when I hit the golf ball, I don't know which way the ball went, but I saw a head of the crowd go down. Someone got hit in the face. I said, this is the end of my golf, playing golf, because I want to end up killing someone. It was a great experience.
But speaking of people who play golf, whenever I do research on actors, I try to find the most striking and, let's say, interesting thing they ever did. And Lou, when I researched everything you did, you also do charity work for the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Yeah.
And in 2012, you were a part of season 5 of The Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump. I think that's question enough.
Well, it was tough because I was the only athlete to make it to 9 shows. But Donald was tough. He's like a loose cannon. You know, when you're on this show, every day when you're doing the task, you have to come up with 2 names of 2 people that you want to be fired. It was very intense because 5 o'clock in the morning we're in the makeup, and 6 o'clock in the morning they got 3 cameras in our faces, and they work up to like midnight. So we're going like to 5 days a week, and especially when you do a show like this, it's not scripted, there's only 1 take. And I'll tell you, I'm glad I raised $100,000 for my charity, but at the beginning it was fun. When the show was completed, everyone hated each other because it's almost like you have to rat on people, and they were afraid of me. So I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot about branding, but Donald, he's a loose cannon.
The thing is, only on camera, does that change when they turn the camera off?
Well, off camera, but the thing is, once you go in the boardroom, it's not scripted. Donald walked in, and you're on the mark, on the money. There's no rehearsal, no nothing. It's just 1 take. So, it was tough.
Do we have a question from the audience? Come on, guys, raise your hands. Yes. Yeah, no. You raise your own hand, not your neighbor's hand. Yes, we have one.
Okay, I have a question for MANU. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking or what?
I've got a question for Lou. How was it to film for Pumping Iron with your father?
It was difficult. My father was in the movie just to be in the film. We had a love and hate relationship, and I almost wanted to run away in South Africa because we were fighting the whole time. And it was fun making the movie. It was fun to be in South Africa. I think if I would have gone by myself, I would have had a better time. But I had a very strange father, so he was very disappointed that I came second to honor in the competition because I wasn't in my best shape. But it was a tough love and hate relationship.
Thank you.
First row. The lady in yellow.
This question goes to Manu Bennett. You were in Arrow and you were in the Shannara Chronicles. There are different roles. One time you're the good guy, and sometimes, and in the Arrow you were the more. Which one was more fun to play, and do you have something funny to tell from each one of the shows?
Yeah, look, you know, Arrow, Slade Wilson is just you know, he's a character that, you know, I believe Marv Wolfman wanted to write a human character rather than a superhero. You know, of course he had military, you know, strengths and certain things. A little bit like the $6 Million Man, in that they did an operation with him and things went on that gave him the Deathstroke abilities. But really, he was just kind of like a tormented soldier that becomes a kind of a gun for hire, but not really a gun for hire to assassinate innocent people. Somebody who targets, you know, where the bad guys are and goes in hard. But you know, it's an interesting way that they adapted that character into the television world and began with the Mirakuru and the love triangle with Shadow and these things. It was hard. I was half the time I was sort of really trying to just hold on to the integrity of the character while they tried to push him off a cliff. You know, like when I killed Oliver's mother, I thought, how can my character ever be viewed as somebody that would be in the realm of a likable character like Slade Wilson, Deathstroke in the comic book world is. So I didn't want to lose the integrity that the comic book character had, so I tried very hard to always maintain a kind of even in the craziness of all that Mirakuru stuff, just to try to maintain this man that was struggling against the darkness, like watching The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. You know, seeing a man that's just caught up in this crazy scenario, but you keep on getting a hint of the guy's humility, his you know, struggle to stay as a man in the middle of like all of this circus. You know, I tried to do that in the middle of all the Mirakuru craziness, you know, and I'm glad, I think, that I maintained it in some way. You know, Al-Anon, yeah. Al-Anon for me was a very interesting role because it was a protagonist. You know, I got to play somebody who was sort of shepherding a whole bunch of young characters, and you know, having 3 kids myself, now I felt like that was a shift in my own ability to act. You know, playing that responsible role that had to care for these young people that were, you know, trying to find their way in a very dangerous environment. I found that I could use a part of myself that was growing in my acting, and so that was great. As for funny things, I remember filming the scene with Felicity in Arrow where I had her in a, you know, and I was sort of, you know, had her in the end of season 3 or something, or season 2. And she jabbed this thing into my eye, or into my neck. It was like a syringe that would knock me out. And at the time, she wasn't looking, and she just went bang, and she smacked me in the face really hard for a girl, actually. I was surprised. It was kind of like a really good backhander, like right in the teeth. And of course, everybody laughed because Felicity hit Deathstroke in the face, and you know, I think I had a bleeding lip as well. I don't know. But anyway, it was fun. I didn't mind. But you know. One of the most enjoyable things about Shannara was really just the young cast. You know, Austin Butler, Poppy Drayton, Ivana Baquero. Those kids are so, each one of them is so on the verge of their lives happening. You know, young actors, great looking kids, good spirit. It was fun to sit and watch them at the beginning of their careers and trying to really do the best work they could. Yeah. Oh. Anyway, that's the answer.
And also, Deathstroke is one of the main reasons why Deadpool exists. You know, you are Slade Wilson, he's Wade Wilson. What do you think about, you know, comic book characters inspiring each other and some people just stealing stuff from others to make their own creations, to make the comic book world live and prosper at the moment?
Well, you know, you've got DC and Marvel, you know, and the two of them kind of like, you know, had a little bit of a tete-a-tete. You know, it was a fun thing, I think, when they came up with Wade Wilson and Slade Wilson. I mean, the best thing that could possibly happen in a film right now, I think, is that, you know, whether it be Joe Manganiello or whatever, but they should introduce Deadpool to Deathstroke, you know, in a film. I think it'd make for a very funny cafe scene,
yes.
you know, if what's the guy's name that plays Deadpool?
Ryan Reynolds.
If Ryan Reynolds was sitting in a cafe and suddenly down sits Joe Manganiello opposite him and he goes, hey Slade, he goes, hey Wade. You know, it would be the moment that the Marvel and DC comic world would have this very funny bridge. You know, I wish I could do it. I mean, I'd love to play that scene. Yeah, but anyway, might go to Joe.
Sam, there is one thing, because we talked a lot about your careers, and what I think about when you're in the business for 40 years. So has your view of stuff you did changed over the course of the time, and especially the perception of the people? Because when Flash Gordon first came out, it won you a Razzie, but now the film is a cult phenomenon and people look up to you and think it was awesome what you did there. So basically it's a whole 360.
Yeah, look, in this business, if we're hired to do a project, that number one, that's a blessing. Number two, if that project does well, that's your second blessing. And for me, the third blessing is if there's any longevity that is attached to any project. So, I mean, here we are talking, and I'm fortunate enough to be here with Lou and Manu, but I'm here because of Flash Gordon, and we filmed it almost 40 years ago. It's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, obviously, after 40 years in the business, there's been a lot of transitions and changes and innovation. But for me, I've had to, you know, I've had my failures and my successes, but I just try to keep it real. I try to stay grounded. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of hindrances for us. And I've had to learn, for me personally, just to get over me, you know, and kind of put others first. And it's sort of life-changing, and that's sort of my wife was very instrumental and encouraged me to do that when I was getting full of me. And she's right. This magical thing happens for any of us, not just us in the film industry, but for any of us, whatever we're doing, whatever our skill set is. This magical thing happens. If we serve others first, then the magic happens. We get anything we want, anytime we want, basically. So that's what I've had to learn to do, is get over me, and I'm a work in progress.
Lou, Manu, do you want to share a story as well about how your view of your career has changed over the last couple of years?
Well, at the time when I did the talk series, it was only channel 2, 4, and 7. Now we have so many different networks and so many people want to be actors. The beauty about being in the business for 40-some years, I have a chance to reinvent myself over and over and over, because when I began in the film business, I was the youngest one on the set. Now when I'm on the set, I'm probably one of the oldest. But you grow as an actor. It takes 20 years to know what you're doing as an actor. The acting is not something that you go to school and then you become an actor overnight. You have to have a box of tools to use all these emotions about life, it's about people. But what I have to say is, like my son now is doing a TV series called SWAT. He went to USC and is a trained actor, because I told him when he was young, there's 15,000 blonde-haired guys like you, they want to be actors. It's all about the craft as an actor. And over the years, over the 40 years, the changes I've seen is the beauty of expanded television. We have now A-list actors doing the comic characters, because at the time when I did the Hulk, some actors didn't want to be associated with these comic characters, but now it's just the Marvel comic characters dominating the box office, which is great. But over the 41 years, the technology proven the special effect. The only thing I don't like, we're missing the good quality stories. Like you take The Godfather, you take the Titanic, you take like Orson Welles, like Citizen Kane. We need better quality movies because sometimes you spend $200 million on a budget with special effect and a bomb. That's why the original series Twilight Zone is so popular, because every episode has a laser compelling message. We grow with it, like the whole Star Trek, it's part of life. That's what's missing, but the other side, we have a much more expansion now with different characters and different actors.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Yeah. You know, in hindsight, you know, I guess with you guys, and one of the things that we get along very well personally, away from people when we're talking amongst each other, is that you sort of realize, when you come into Hollywood, you have to be one of these young, hungry, with a look or with a skill set or whatever that they pick, and then you get pulled into the machine and you do whatever that they say to say action, and you throw yourself into it completely, and then you start realizing especially when you come to things like this, just how much what you do affects people. And yesterday I made this comment about, I went to Greece last year, and the very first amphitheater that was ever built in Greece was built in a place called Epidavros. And the Greeks built it, the people that built it were called the Asclepios, and they were medicine people. And they believed that if a person or people stood in the middle of this arena and they exhibited some kind of performance or speech or whatever, that would enable a sort of a healing mechanism in the audience, right? So that idea of exchanging energy was made in Greece originally. Then the Romans took it from, like the Corinthian and all this stuff that the Romans took from the Greeks. They took it and they used it for politics, stand in the arena and or crucifying Christians in a Colosseum. So that's the way entertainment, began. Well, no, it began in a cave, but the idea of having sound and audio in an amphitheater, the acoustics in this particular place in Greece is incredible. Like if you say something, it echoes right around. Perfect acoustics, something that was built in 1000 BC, right? Or 700 BC. Now, what we do at home is we sit in a couch now and there's a television there. So this exchange of energy is so important in all of our lives. Whether it be, now it's computers, we're watching computers and we're trying to take on what's happening in world politics, what's happening in entertainment, what's the latest, the funny video, how do we sexually get satisfied? And there's all these things that we challenge ourselves in the video screen kind of thing. But the thing is this is a healing tool, it's a healing mechanism, it's powerful. And I think that considering that Shakespeare wasn't allowed to really talk about politicians, otherwise he'd get his head cut off, and that a person called Chekhov in Russia was the first person to ever write about truth in the Industrial Revolution in the mid-1900s, and now we're only in the early 2000s, this mechanism that we work on has such potential for joining humans around the planet and getting story out. I think Hollywood's responsible for being stereotyped. I think they got to break it. I think that European cinema from around the world has got to become more involved in the stories that we absorb so that we understand the person who's fighting for ISIS, so that we understand, what America is really. Not that it's these superheroes. Everybody's vulnerable. Everybody's scared. Everybody's worried about their country because now we're so multicultural. You can't even see your own nationality anymore. All these things are super important, and they have to be tackled with story. Art is a force. Politicians we can't touch, but we have art, we share it. You guys that come to these events, you're coming because of modern mythology. You're coming because you identify with these storylines because they resonate. The stuff that DC and Marvel are writing, it's Hercules, but it's modern characters in modern settings. We've barely gotten a grasp of what we can do with writing. Barely gotten a grasp, or performance, I mean, the heart in this man, the heart in this man, the heart in me. I got some of it out in Crixus, right? But the possibility of what we can put across that screen is quite incredible. So I hope that the writing and the way the production works in this world keeps on expanding, and I think it will. I think in 50 years you'll see the screen being responsible for either being very destructive or very powerful in terms of connecting us even more.
Do we have another question from the audience? Come on, raise your hands. Yes, all the way in the back. Yesterday, Sam told us that we need to do 5 minutes of workout every day. I think the girls are getting a great time.
I thought the whole thing was going to come down.
Hier stand, du stehst genau vor ihm. Direkt hinter dir. Ja. You raised your hand. Okay, great. It's just like in school. No, I was just stretching.
The girl,
So,
the girl.
the girl, yes, here.
You can stand, please stand up, yep.
Only 4 minutes and 37 seconds to go.
Hi, first of all, thank you guys for coming. I kind of missed the first half, so I'm sorry if this is repeating. I kind of wanted to ask you, each one of you, if you have any interesting, exciting, upcoming projects that we haven't heard of yet.
First off, you have any interesting, exciting projects coming up?
I'm writing, you know what, I've decided to go to the pen, because what I said to you before, I believe in, and I think that, you know, like, if I just sit back and I have that feeling, like I was, you know, I think Spartacus was such a great show for a global kind of picture of people feeling enslaved, feeling the need to get away from being confined to a position of being nobody. You know, there was all nationalities were represented, all sexes were represented. It was a very interesting show in that way. I just spent time down in Greece at that place I told you about called Epidavros. So I'm putting pen to paper and writing a film called Marathon. But it's about a young boy that runs in a marathon in Greece, in modern day Greece, but he's from a poor part of Greece. But the whole thing is really about a metaphor about that the young people of Greece have to take responsibility for that country. They have to do what Philippides did at the Battle of Marathon, to run back and tell their capital that they could win a battle, marathon. The reason why there's a marathon is because one soldier in Greece ran from a battlefield all the way back to Athens. The distance that he ran is what the modern day marathon is based upon. It was so hot that he collapsed on the stairs of I don't think it was the Parthenon, I'm not quite sure, but he collapsed and said, "We have had victory in marathon." Then he died. This story is a wonderful story about the potential of Greek people. Greece is suffering terribly. I love Greek people. I grew up in Australia with Greek people. Somehow I'd like to contribute, but this is sort of where I turn my mind. I mean, somebody offered me recently to go and audition for one of these big studio films, and I kind of don't want to give much more to violence for violence sake, or to the symbolism of heroism where it's stereotype or it doesn't help change things. So yeah, anyway, that's my commitment right now. I'm trying to commit to something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm filming a new TV series called Pump. It's going to be on Discovery Channel, and we're going to have, it's like the Celebrity Apprentice of Fitness and Bodybuilding. We're going to have a youth audition this coming June. People from all over the world. We're going to choose 12 people out of 300 people. The contestants come on the show, they're going to bring their brand on the show. For example, most bodybuilders, fitness people don't make so much money. But me and my partner, Mike Torsha, we bring these people on the show, and they're going to bring their brand, how to make more money, be more successful. Like, for example, say one person wants to be an actor, one person wants to be a businessman. They work with Mike and I. We would teach them to take them to the next level. We had a guy recently that had a missing leg. He had a motorcycle accident, and he was a major drug addict. He reformed himself, he worked out, and he got himself in the best shape. He was only 31 years old, and he wanted to participate in this. This is hope for everybody. It's going to be worldwide, all over the world. It's going to be fantastic. There's not another film, not another TV show. It's unique, it's different, called Pump. It's fabulous. Anybody that watches the show, it gives you hope, knowing that anybody can prove themselves. Check it out, it's called Pump. P-U-M-P-E-D.
I can't wait to see it. Thank you.
That's great. And you're bringing me on that show, right? You got it, okay. Yeah, I've got a couple projects coming out late this year, early next year. I think we did 6 films the past 18 months. One in particular is really cool. It's a true story about the first deaf Major League Baseball player in America. And I got to play the father, and it takes place, a period piece in 1886. And really incredible story, true story. And his name is William Hoy. He lived to be almost 100 years old. So that should be, when you start a movie, by the time all of the post, it takes about a year for each project. Then we have this other yes, yes. See, they're talking about it now. And then one of the other 6 is a documentary. It was really cool. I had a film crew shadow me for 3 years, off and on for 3 years.
Hey, what?
A film crew, you know that.
They
interviewed you as well. A film crew.
Oh, Flash thing.
Yeah. It's called Life After Flash. Lou is in it. Manu did an interview as well. But anyway, it's when people come to you and say, hey, we want to do your life story, my first thought was, well, wait a minute, my life is not over yet. But so you become transparent. You have to be transparent. And I think that's a little bit of what we're talking about up here. The only way we're going to reach people in the world with our failures and our successes is we have to be transparent. And that's really what this documentary is, called Life After Flash. It should be, it's complete. And now it's at a couple film festivals, and hopefully that it'll be sold and that message will get out there. Very impactful message, and hopefully it'll be out soon. You'll get to see it.
First, you're all legends, and my question on you, Manu. You're a very great actor, also.
Thank you.
I love you for the role at Spartacus.
What is your name?
Christoph.
Christoph.
Yeah.
Thank
My
you.
question is how to prepare to at Spartacus with fight scenes and the role from Hobbit at Azog. How to prepare for this?
There's two very different approaches. First of all, with Azog, the whole film was shot with a 7-foot actor, and it wasn't until after the film was in the editing booth that Peter Jackson looked at the performance and didn't like what had been captured for Azog. It was a 7-foot guy. He was in so much costuming and prosthetics. Are we at an airport? It's like an airport. Anyway, I was flown down to Wellington with only 2 days' notice, and basically I arrived in a hotel. Peter Jackson doesn't send the scripts out. He doesn't email a script ever, so I didn't see the script until I arrived at the hotel. Luckily, I decided to take out. I'd seen an image of what Azog looked like, so I took out I took out Jaws, and I got Jaws and The Empire Strikes Back, and I watched both of those films the night before I had to go on and film. And really, I based Azog on a big, deep voice like James Earl Jones, Ubak de Luke Knock, Luke, you are my son, this kind of thing, And I based his movement upon a white shark. And I noticed, you know, the thing about and I watched the documentary also on Jaws, and because of mechanical failures with the shark, they didn't actually get much footage with the shark. That's why in the movie there was meant to be a lot more footage of the shark, but then Lucas said that it worked so much better because you only ever see very little of the shark, and so they had to use the music a lot more. John Williams, great, you know, right? So all I could think about when I was filming Azog was that I wanted to move so that when he was moving, it'd be like do 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 do. Do, 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 do. And I almost had that theme song playing in my head. And I remember the first scene that I had to do was Azog. Can you come up here? Yeah. Come up. So, remember, who watched The Hobbit? Do you remember the first scene where the orcs, they walked in and there was that orc and he went, "Master, you know, the Hobbit's got away." You know, and I wanted to be like Jaws, so I said to Peter Jackson, "Can I start this scene with my back to the camera so nobody can see me? And then as I move forward, can I not look at the camera? So that when I move, I come up very slowly and then then the jaws of the white shark open up, right? So can you do this? Can you sort of stand here and go, "Master, the Hobbit's got away"?
Master, the Hobbit's got away.
Gute Nacht. Ubaktilumna Gute Nacht. Schulbundanak. Und da stille Wuster.
And I threw him into the wolves, right?
Yep.
But sorry. But it was playing a white shark was what I based it on, yeah. Thank you very much. So I didn't mean to grab you like that.
Thank you.
Cheers. There you go. The other role, I just did a lot of training and a lot of sword fighting, and we did enough that by the time we reached the set, we were very good and we knew each other's movements and we could throw the sword and miss each other by this much. Spartacus was a wonderful fighting show because we all got to do our own fights. You can't do that in America because if you get injured, there's all these legalities. And in New Zealand, we have a different political system, a different legislation. In New Zealand, if you get injured, you can't sue your boss. So the producers aren't responsible in any way financially for anything that would happen to an actor on set. So we're allowed to do all our own fights. Oh yeah, Spartacus was never shot. Spartacus was shot 100% in a studio, never outdoors. Never outdoors, yeah. That for some reason Sam was really fascinated with that. Was Flash Gordon never shot outside of a studio?
Yes, in Scotland the first week. Yeah. In Scotland, the opening to, we had 5.5 months studio, and then of course we had the first week at the Isle of Skye in Scotland. That was it. But when Manu told me that 100% of Spartacus, how many people when they saw Spartacus, they thought that they were, visiting different countries, exterior? Raise your hand if you thought that. So the rest of you that didn't raise your hand actually believed that it was shot in a studio? Okay,
you thought we were in Italy.
Well, okay.
We were in we were in a small suburb in Auckland, New Zealand. In a studio that was right next to a big shopping center and an actual, there was a fish factory, for processing fish. So on our studio roof, all these seagulls used to land, and they'd run around on the roof, which was a real problem because we'd be filming a scene. I'd be like touching Navia's finger through the bar, saying Navia, a soft, gentle scene, and suddenly, and they had a guy that would go outside. He had some sort of arrow thing or something, I don't know. But he'd fire it into the roof, and the sound would make all the birds take off. It was so weird, though, trying to deal with these seagulls.
Yes, in the middle.
Oh, girl in the middle.
Hello, I have a question to Manu. I like your Instagram photos, and the question is, these are your ideas, or do you have a professional photographer with you who take the pictures?
No, I grab whoever's around. You know, I usually look at something and I'll see how it is, and then I'll hold my phone up and get the person to come across, and I say, can you take this photo like this? Because I'm traveling, a lot of the time I'm traveling alone, you know, going around doing conventions, going around. But I want to see the world, you know. To me, traveling and seeing cultures is the best way to, I don't know, to rid yourself of stereotype, you know? Like, I hate to think that I don't know, and I'll tell you why this story resonates. When I was 15, I was in a car accident with my mother, and my mother was killed, and I was thrown out the window, and the scar that I have on my face that everybody thinks makeup for Spartacus or whatever, it's the glass when I got thrown out the window. Then I hit the road, and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. I didn't wake up for 2 weeks, and when I woke up, my mother was dead, and all this horrible reality, right? But my worst enemy from school, the person who I hated, he hated me. He had a mullet haircut and wore death metal shirts and was angry all the time. I had a beautiful mother. I was, you know, I had gel in my hair. I did break dancing. So me and this guy were complete opposites, right? He would be like, you know, hey, you know, you bloody, you know, you rap sack, you poof, you know, call me all these things. I walked into the classroom one day and he had like Bennett's and nigger written across the blackboard, and just, you know, honestly, really hostile, angry stuff where you have an enemy. You know, you believe it's your enemy. When I woke up in the hospital, the person standing beside my hospital bed was this person. And then I found out that he lost his mother. And that's why he had a mullet, an aggressive haircut, and had an aggressive personality. He was angry at the world. He had such loss. And I had a beautiful mother. I had a full family. You know, I dressed confidently, you know. And he hated me for it. He hated me for it because he didn't have it. I based my whole performance in Spartacus. When I was in front of Spartacus saying, your wife was fucked by 100 Roman cocks, right? Like this anger, these words, saying it vehemently. I was playing what I felt Matthew Sisley was saying to me when he was going, you know, like this, right? But, you know, the thing is, I ended up being the best man at his wedding. You know, yeah, exactly, right? So this kind of change is possible, right? On this planet, it's all possible to change. It's possible to just get on a plane and fly into Russia or fly into China or fly into North Korea and see people. See people. ISIS. Go into a tent. If they didn't know you weren't ISIS, you could walk in there and say, hey, you know, they don't sit around and they, you know, you can do this. We can do this. We can do this. You know, not easy, but we can do it. Forgiveness, brother. Understanding, just understanding, just understanding. You know, just understanding somebody else's story. And what they don't have, or what you have, or what you want, and what you think, you put them on the pedestal. You know, I put these guys on the pedestal when I was a kid. It was the Hulk, it was Flash. I met them. They're men. They're men who have been through hurdles in their life, struggles in their life. They're wonderful men. They're great actors. They've done wonderful things for us on the big screen. But they're men. Vulnerable men. Same here. Like, God, I couldn't do that stuff for Crixus if I wasn't broken. You know? Thanks for the opportunity, these shows. You know? Yeah.
Hey, Manu, I like what it says on back of your jacket. You see what it says on back of his jacket? Yeah.
Oh, the back of my jacket. I give budget. Here we go.
Don't you love it? Talk about angry, man. That's great, yeah.
It's meant to be Harley Davidson motorcycle. I just think it's a very funny take on that.
Every time I see Manu, he always had a different outfit. He got a lot of class, especially when he comes from New England. So every time I see you, I love his exotic outfits you have. I'm not going to repeat it, but keep it up, beautiful boots, jeans.
Oh, well, you know, it's all just different signals.
So sadly, that's all the time we have for today. The only thing is, do you guys have any last words? That sounds terrible when I phrase it like that. Anything else you want to say?
I want to say to every one of you, embrace your passion. Life is short. You only live once. Don't wait till 80, 90. Anything you're passionate about. You see, passion, when you embrace your passion, it makes you unstoppable. You can move mountains. It's all about positive living. Stay away from negative people. Stay away from the naysayers. Be true to yourself, and you'll be very successful. And you got to remember, health is your greatest wealth.
Yeah, I just, going to different countries, it's always such an opportunity. So I really appreciate being in Austria. I've only been here 48 hours. I'm going to go see Vienna for a couple of days and try to absorb as much as I can, try to take something in of the history, of the food, of the people, have a chat to some strangers, try to get the vibe. And it's just as a Maori would say, kia kaha, stand strong, stand with belief, kia kaha. I appreciate being in your country. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Amen. I just want to add, you hear athletes and actors say sometimes, well, I'm not a role model, but look, doesn't matter what we do up here or what you do, just keep in mind, whenever you're talking to somebody, or maybe just they're looking at you, maybe all it takes is just a look and a smile. We are role models, so we have an impact, us, all of us, and we have influence over people, and it could be life-changing. And sometimes it doesn't require words. It's just a look and a smile, and you've changed that person's life. So we need to always be aware of that, always.
One more thing I want to say, thank you for coming. I'm doing a photo op at 12:30 to remind you and to let you know, but this is the first time I think I've been to Austria, and I'm very impressed with the hospitality, the kindness, the sweetness, and the generosity of your people. Thank you so much.
Thanks everybody for coming. Special thanks to Sam Jones, Lou Ferrigno, Manu Bennett, and our partner, the German Comic-Con. Thanks, have a great day. And next up on this stage will be Devon Murray in about 10 minutes. See you guys.